Gone screensavers.
Yeah, weird.
Thanks, Dick.
Problem. Glad I wake up.
Complete. Okay. I say, it's 11:32. I say, take it away, Peter.
Okay, good morning, everyone. Thank you for turning out to the MPO meeting for the Southern New Hampshire Planning Commission. Our normal procedure is to do a roll call, but also at the same time approve the minutes, in this case of the September 27th meeting. Could I have a motion to accept the minutes of?
Dave Pierce, motion, do that.
Is there a second? Second. Any corrections or omissions? Take it away, Sylvia.
All right, we'll go according to town. Auburn, Paula Martloff. Here, yes. Thanks, Paula. And Bedford, we have Charlie Fairman in the house.
Yes, and abstain on the minutes.
Also Bill Jean.
Here, yes.
Thanks, Bill. And Daniel Heath in virtual. Where's Daniel?
Here.
Here, okay. Great. Andy, we have Al Hall.
Here and abstain.
All right, I don't see Ruth today, so we'll keep going. Chester, we have Andrew Haddock here.
Here and abstain.
Thank you, Andrew. And online, we have Deb Munson.
Here and yes.
I love your speaker. Thank you, your microphone. I love that. We heard you loud and clear, Deb. Derry, Jeff Moulton is here.
Yeah, here and yes. Excuse me, here and yes.
Great. And virtually, we have John.
Here and yes.
Thanks, John. Francistown, we have Linda Kuhnhart. Here and yes. Thanks, Linda. Gary Schneckenberg.
Here and yes.
Thanks, Gary. And online, we have Jennifer Badney.
Here and abstain.
Excellent. Thank you.
And also Alfred Eisenberg from Francistown.
Hey, thanks, Al, for catching me out. Didn't see you come in. That happens. Goffstown, we have David Pierce in the house.
Yes.
And online, Jacob LaFontaine.
Here and yes.
Thanks, Jacob. Hooksett, we have Rob Curry.
Here and yes.
And I believe that's Denise Bichette Polk. Right? Denise? You're muted. No?
You might be thinking of Danielle Avancic.
Am I? Oh, that's Daniela Vancic there. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
I'm here from Bedford and I'm gonna abstain just because I didn't hear what you guys were voting on.
All right, I am messed up. I've confused you, but it's because you have Zoom user and I have to change your name. I'll get to that. Actually, Tammy, will you please get Danielle's name up there? It's Danielle Vancic.
I cannot do that as a co-host. Oh, wait, yes, I can.
Yeah, good. All right, thank you. Let's see, back to Hooksett, we have Rob Curry virtual. Where are you?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we got it.
Thank you. Gotcha. I just heard a yeah. Londonderry in-house, we have Suzanne Brunel.
Yes, and abstain.
Great. Arthur Rugg is virtual.
I am here and yes, on the minutes.
Thanks, Art. And
You're
Lynn
welcome.
Wild. Lynn, where'd you go? There you are. Unmute.
I'm muted. Hi, Sylvia. I'm here and yes on the minutes.
Fantastic. Thank you. Oh, and there is Denise. Denise, can you hear us? I just saw you. From Hooksett, we also have Denise Bichette Polk. Just join us. You just have to say, yes, I'm here.
Yes, I am here.
And any thoughts on the minutes?
Approved as written.
Thank you.
Hey.
We are moving along. Manchester, Peter Capano.
Yes, and yes.
Thank you. And we have Ray Clement.
Here and yes.
And virtually we have Marcus Ponce de Leon.
President, yes.
And no one else snuck in? No? Anyone else I'm missing from Manchester? No? Good. And Mark is ready for me. He is unmuted. We have Mark Sunin.
Here and abstain.
Thank you, Mark. And we heard you loud and clear. Wyndham, we have Peter Griffin.
Here and yes.
Perfect. And John Hiltz virtually.
Present and abstain.
And we have Edgar Lapointe right in the house.
Here and yes.
Thanks, Edgar. Did I miss anyone from the community? Okay.
We have one person that has called in. I'm not sure who the phone number belongs to.
Oh, yeah, the person calling in, *6, I believe, if you could let us know who you are. Ending in 7435. Or like in October, you will just be our mystery guest. Okay. Moving along, also from DOT, we have two people. We have Bill Watson. I saw Bill's name somewhere.
Good morning, Sylvia.
Morning, and we also have Kim Rumo.
Good morning. How are you?
Good, thank you. I don't know if either one of you will be voting today.
I abstain.
Okay, great, thank you.
Thank you.
Non-voting members, we have Tim Wood.
Good morning.
Good morning, Tim. Also, Ricky DeStilo.
Morning, everybody.
I probably messed up your name, Ricky. How do you say it?
Hey, you got it, DeSillo. Yeah.
DeStilo. Ah, good for me. And we also talked to Vincent already from Central New Hampshire Planning Commission as a non-voting member. And I think, did I miss anyone? All right. I believe I'm exhausted and I should go to sleep now.
Okay. But those of you that are not members of us that are checking in from other agencies, thank you so much for participating. I think your input is very important, and just the connectivity with other agencies is so good. Under old business, Sylvia, can you wake up for a moment to?
Yes. We're having way too much fun, right? I don't think so, right, Linda? No. I don't think so.
Okay,
Yeah, no old business.
Nate, you're on deck, so to speak, for the 10-year plan.
All right. Well, I will see if I can figure out how to share my presentation on the first try correctly. Don't think it's going to happen, but we'll see. There you go. Oh, yes. Well, I guess that works for you guys, right? And everybody can see this full screen. It's on the it's on the presenter view on this computer, but that probably doesn't matter. If it's on the
Let's
other
ask
computer.
Tammy. Tammy, can you see the?
No, it's currently frozen on the PowerPoint window.
Oh, really? All right.
Mhm.
How about now?
Yes,
So we're full screen?
yes, perfect.
Okay, great.
Yay.
Right? Figure out this. Okay, so I just gonna walk through a series of updates about our progress on the 2025 to 2034 10-year plan update process. And I show this first slide kind of every time we do a 10-year plan or TIP or metropolitan plan presentation, because we talk about a lot of different plans. Obviously, here at the Southern New Hampshire Planning Commission, they all do actually fit together. So in this case, we're talking about the blue box, the 10-year plan. That is a state requirement as opposed to our long-range plan or our TIP. And it's a special thing that we do in New Hampshire. And once, basically, the importance of the 10-year plan is once something is in the 10-year plan, once a project is in the 10-year plan, it does constitute a funding commitment to do that project. So that's an important threshold. If it's not in the 10-year plan, there isn't a funding commitment to do the project. If it is in the 10-year plan, there is a funding commitment to do the project. Our TIP is our Transportation Improvement Program, which is a federal requirement, is essentially the first 4 years of the 10-year plan. So A lot of what we do here in New Hampshire to program projects and bring projects from concept to construction happens through that 10-year plan as a nexus. We update it every 2 years. The current 10-year plan is the 2023 to 2032 10-year plan. So now we're looking 2 years ahead at the 2025 to 2034 10-year plan. Our Southern New Hampshire Planning Commission, along with all of the other regional planning commissions, do get a regional allocation for 10-year plan projects. Our regional allocation was increased proportionally with the increase in federal formula funding that the state as a whole is receiving through what I still call the IIJA, the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act. You'll also see that referred to as the Bipartisan Infrastructure Law or bill. It's the same thing, it just has 2 different names now. So our regional 10-year plan allocation for this update cycle is $10.56 million, which sounds like a significant amount of funding. Unfortunately, we're talking about year of expenditure dollars here. And the projects that will be added to the 10-year plan will go to the back of the line in the 10-year plan. In this case, the back of the line is fiscal year 2033 and 2034, the final 2 years of the 10-year plan. Obviously, with the inflationary environment that we're dealing with, when you're dealing with year of expenditure dollars inflated out to 2033 and 2034, the spending power of that $10.56 million won't go as far as if it was in current year dollars. So an important distinction there to keep in mind as we work through this process. New Hampshire DOT requires engineering review for all projects that are proposed for consideration in the 10-year plan. We did go through a qualifications-based selection process for an on-call engineering firm to help us with that. We selected VHB, and they will serve as our on-call engineering firm for the next 2 years. And we have assigned VHB through a task order project scoping and cost estimating work for all 7 of the project proposals that we have under consideration for this 10-year plan update. They have done some initial work on scoping memos and cost estimates. I'm going to walk through some of those projects and their work on those projects to date. More work is still to come to refine those scopes and cost estimates, but we're making good progress. I'm going to start walking through each of the projects that are kind of under consideration for this 10-year plan update in our region. And I'm going to start with the trickiest one, the one that is sort of still most up in the air about what to do and how to do it. And that I'm going through these in alphabetical order by community. So I'm starting with the town of Bedford first. But it just so happens that the town of Bedford's first project is a pretty tricky one. It is Route 101 safety improvements from Wallace Road to the Bedford-Amherst town line. I see somebody in the waiting room. Is Tammy letting people in? Great. So for those of you who have been around a while, it's before my time in the region. In 2002, there was a corridor study of the Route 101 corridor. There's a screenshot of the cover of that on the screen. There were similar corridor studies that covered 3 other communities in the 101 corridor: Amherst, Milford, and Wilton. And those 4 communities.
She's been sleeping on your pants.
We have somebody unmuted on.
Tammy, can you mute the rest of the group, please?
There has been an effort now for the better part of 20 years to implement aspects of these corridor studies. And so there are 2 different projects that are active right now that are state managed, 16392D and E, that will implement different recommendations, I believe, in both Amherst and Milford. The town of Bedford has safety concerns, obviously, about this segment from Wallace Road to the Amherst town line. And so looking at another project to implement the corridor study from 2002, in this case in Bedford in this particular segment. The corridor study actually from 2002 recommends a 5-lane cross section from basically all the way to the town line. That became VHB's initial concept was, okay, what would it look like if the corridor study was implemented as proposed in 2002? That 5-lane cross section has a lot of cost and B, a lot of potential impacts. So it's unclear really whether there would be public support for a roadway expansion of this magnitude. So that can be something for the town of Bedford to consider over time. But VHB did take a look at a 5-lane cross section in this segment. It is estimated to be $19.7 million in 2022 dollars, which is far beyond our regional allocation. It may be worthy, this layout, of long-term consideration, but as we've reviewed this with the town, we've determined that the layout's not desirable to pursue at this time. So we've asked VHB to take a look at this segment and determine whether there are other smaller scale safety improvements that don't reach a 5-lane layout that could be considered for inclusion in the 10-year plan, particularly on the highest priority segment here from a safety perspective, which is between Wallace Road and Elk Drive. So VHB is going to be working on that. Those improvements may involve intersection improvements. They may involve potentially a center left turn lane in some areas. So we'll see what VHB comes back with. It's helpful for them to have done the work on the 5-lane layout from the original corridor study, but that's not something that we're going to be moving forward with at this time. It's something that the town can consider in the future, and we can always revisit it. The second project in Bedford is that the town of Bedford proposed for consideration in this 10-year plan update is construction of a multi-use path adjacent to Route 101 from Wallace Road to the Bedford Amherst town line. So this would be a 10-foot wide paved multi-use path with 2-foot gravel shoulders along Route 101. Total project cost from VHB is estimated to be $3.1 million in 2022 dollars to construct such a multi-use path. There's one particular location that is going to be a little bit tricky to do if the multi-use path ended up moving forward. And that is the Route 101 bridge over Pulpit Brook. It was widened to a 3-lane width in 2022, but doesn't have any accommodation built in for a potential multi-use path. So in order to accommodate a separated multi-use path in that area, the bridge would either need to be widened or a separate prefab pedestrian bridge would need to be installed to accommodate the multi-use path. So that is one kind of infrastructure consideration with the multi-use path. In the town of Deerfield, again, continuing in alphabetical order here, town of Deerfield, you may remember this project from 2 years ago. Deerfield asked that we keep it under consideration for this 10-year plan update. Is the intersection of Route 107, Candia Road and Church Street in the town of Deerfield. And basically it would be converting that intersection to a roundabout. And so you see kind of a schematic of what that roundabout would look like. It's not a traditional kind of perpendicular 4-leg design due to the geometry of that particular location. But it is a 4-leg roundabout. Total project cost is estimated to be $1.55 million in today's dollars, which is actually lower than the previous cost estimate from 2 years ago, which was $1.796 million. So that's a pleasant surprise that the cost estimate came down a little bit. This is obviously sort of in the center of Deerfield's village. There are historic properties in this area, and there would be some historic property impacts to accommodate the roundabout design. VHB's tried to minimize that to the extent possible, but still would require the removal of old growth trees at one of the properties on 2 Raymond Road, which I think is worthy of consideration from a historic resource impact perspective. There are 2 projects in the town of Londonderry under consideration. The town's top priority is a capacity expansion on Route 28 from the intersection of Sims and Vista Ridge Drive to the intersection of Route 128. If you remember, we've had a project which is fully funded in the 10-year plan to make a considerable improvement to the intersection of 28 and 128. So this would extend from where that project would end out to Sims and Vista Ridge Drive. VHB's concept here, which is based on some work that had been done for the town of Londonderry a few years ago by Stantec, would be to expand Route 28 to a 5-lane cross section with a dual use center turn lane. The intersection itself of 28 Vista Ridge and Sims Drive would be expanded, as you can see, maybe faintly see on this screenshot, would include additional turn lanes and 3 lanes. And in one of those directions, that would account for 7 total lanes, 2 lefts, 2 rights, and 3 throughs. And in the other direction would be 6 lanes. And frankly, that may be excessive. So even and VHB acknowledges that that additional evaluation of lane use for this intersection, once the design, if it ends up advancing to design phase, would need to be done. That would be quite a large intersection after a capacity expansion. Total project cost is estimated to be $9.7 million in 2022 dollars. Normally on a project of this size, we would start to look at how it might lend itself to phasing, or doing a first portion of the project and then later with a second portion of the project, or breaking it up into chunks. However, because the intersection improvement at Vista Ridge and Sims Drive is the most significant component of the project, a phased version of the project that doesn't include those intersection benefits may not provide the same level of tangible improvement. So it remains to be determined whether or not phasing of this project would be viable. Second project in the town of Londonderry is construction of phase 7 of the Londonderry Rail Trail. This is the final segment of the Londonderry Rail Trail, which goes from Route 28 to the Derrytown line. It would be a 10-foot wide paved rail trail with 2-foot gravel shoulders. So again, a total width of 14 feet. There is a crossing, which you can see if I put the pointer here. This is a crossing of Route 28, which Route 28 in this area is a busy road with significant traffic. So it requires probably the most intense form of pedestrian crossing, which is called a pedestrian hybrid beacon, which is essentially for lack of a better description, a user activated red light for traffic on 28 for the pedestrians to cross. There are a few of them now throughout the state. I think there's one on the Goffstown Rail Trail, if you're familiar with that location. That's called a pedestrian hybrid beacon. And
It stays red for 10 seconds, then flashing red for 15. Cars may proceed on flashing red.
yes.
Most drivers don't understand flashing red in the middle of a road.
That's my particular, not to go off on a soapbox, but my particular gripe with the pedestrian hybrid beacon is that cars are allowed to advance on a flashing red, unlike any other traffic control device in the world, including railroad crossings. Flashing red is not an indication to proceed. So it's not particularly intuitive to me personally, but they've done a lot of testing and human factors testing on pedestrian hybrid beacons nationally, and they have demonstrable safety benefits. But so in any case, the crossing of 28 would require a pedestrian hybrid beacon. There is a bridge that will need some improvement. It's over Beaver Brook, and it would VHB's initial analysis is that the existing abutments of that Beaver Brook Bridge are likely adequate to reuse and install concrete deck panels to support the trail. So total project cost estimated to be $641,000 in 2022 dollars. The layout of the southern portion of the trail, the exact alignment of the southern portion of this will somewhat be dependent on the ultimate design of the rail trail crossing or the rail trail component of the Exit 4A project, which goes north towards the Londonderry town line. The project is a good fit in size and scope for the Transportation Alternatives Program, but there's no TAP solicitation happening right now, and there won't be for the next few years. So at least 2 more years. So the town has proposed this for 10-year plan consideration. And it is, once that gap is filled, this phase 7 of the Londonderry Rail Trail gap and the corresponding gap that was funded recently in the last TAP update in Derry, that will provide complete connectivity through those communities down to Salem and up towards Manchester and into Manchester. So that Granite State Rail Trail project, this is one of the final remaining gaps in our region to, other than of course downtown Manchester, to make that a continuous connection.
Nate, who owns the corridor?
The corridor is owned in some locations by a private entity. I believe it's the Woodmont Commons entity. So there would need to be some discussion there with that landowner. However, based on indications are that landowner would be friendly to seeing this project come to fruition. So we don't anticipate any significant right-of-way issues for the project.
Nate,
Yes.
John O'Connor from Derry.
Hey, John, how are you?
Very good, thank you. You made a comment about the ultimate design of the rail trail based on 4A. I thought we already had an ultimate design.
I am not sure of the current status of that. I mentioned that only because, as you can see here, if you can see where my pointer is, VHB has left their conceptual design kind of dashed in this area. And the idea is that it would tie into the Derry Rail Trail, however that final alignment ends up happening. So I know that there's been a lot of discussion and stuff about how that rail trail crossing should be, and I don't know what the final resolution is on that at this point, but this project in Londonderry can tie into wherever that ends up being, however the final design ends up coming to fruition.
Okay, thank you.
In the city of Manchester, you may remember this project from 2 years ago. It remains the city's top priority for inclusion in the 10-year plan. This is improvements to the Exit 8 Wellington Road interchange area on I-93. And basically it includes signal coordination for an adaptive signal control for, I think, 4 signals along Wellington Road in this area, as well as some intersection capacity improvements and bicycle lanes through this area. We had VHB update the cost estimate for the project, and it is estimated to be $8.22 million in 2022 dollars. That is comprised of the following: the signal coordination and adaptive signal control component to the project, $980,000. Bicycle lanes in this area, $3.754 million. It would require a box widening to accommodate the bicycle lanes. And intersection capacity improvements at these intersections, $3.492 million. So this project, even if you just did the signal coordination and intersection capacity improvements, it's too big to fit as a CMAQ project. So it likely would need to be a 10-year plan consideration, which is why we're including it again in the 10-year plan update of the potential project. The project does lend itself to phasing potentially. Theoretically, the bicycle lane project portion of the project could be done before or after the other 2 components of the project. So there is a potential to phase it, at least for certain elements of the project. And as we go through the process, that's a discussion that we can have. I keep coming back to phasing, and because some of these projects at $10.56 million a year of expenditure dollars, we're going to be limited in terms of what we can add for new projects. And so in some cases, we may need to look very closely at phasing projects and doing portions of projects to try to keep things moving forward. Oh, I see somebody's hand is raised.
Rob,
just question on the Manchester project, because I was actually on the Manchester Planning Board when that project started with the Wellington exit. Is this in conjunction with the gas station that's going in and the widening of Wellington Road?
Yeah, it meshes with that. I'm gonna go back to this first slide here. Originally, VHB had included some costs, some ramp widening costs in this area in the original scope of work of the project because of some of the moving parts and development that's happened in the area and improvements. This actual ramp widening was completed already. So we had VHB take that out. We've worked closely with the city to make sure that the scope of this project meshes with the activity that's happened in this area and any improvements that might be otherwise happening in the area. So this is one of the reasons why you see that red slash is we actually took that component of it out of the scope of work because it's happening through another initiative.
But Nate, I think Rob's talking about on the other side of that half clover leaf at Wellington Road.
Correct.
A gas station. I don't think they were.
Not the ramp itself, but on Wellington Road, leading up to Wellington Road, that's being widened for the traffic that's going to be needed for the new gas station that's going into that same area. And I know that in that project itself, the city was coordinating with DOT because they already had things in plan as far as how they were going to widen it. So the city was coordinating with them as far as widening that road, as well as I think it's Roy, as you know, so that it all kind of goes at once. And so at that time we had talked about the bicycle lane, which is in this project here.
Right. So we have we've worked with the city, and the city has reviewed VHB's memo, scoping memo, and cost estimate for this project that we're discussing today, and nothing that's happening on the other side, you know, is nothing that we've included in the scope of this project is otherwise being addressed, and what's happening on the other side of the Wellington Road area. So this should mesh well with everything that's happening nearby, but it is not duplicative with anything that's happening nearby.
Okay.
Moving on to the town of Windham, improvements to the Windham Greenway from Meeting House Road and Old Mill Road to the westerly right of way of Interstate 93. So that's kind of what you see here in this. Hopefully it shows up a little bit here in this greenish, yellowish highlighted. It's a rail trail section. It's 2.27 miles, and it would involve the conversion of that abandoned railroad right away into a 10-foot wide paved multi-use path. Total project cost is estimated to be $1.457 million in 2022 dollars. However, that figure only includes the improvements to the town-owned portion of the trail. And the town-owned portion of the trail is what we show here in this greenish yellow. On the other side of I-93 is a state-owned, town-managed portion of the trail that connects to the Fremont branch of the Rockingham Rail Trail that goes towards the Fremont area. There are some improvements that we think will need to be made to that blue section as well, that state-owned section that's town-managed, in order to safely connect these improvements to the Fremont branch of the Rockingham Rail Trail. So, and that may include a pedestrian hybrid beacon at the Lowell Road crossing east of 93. So we've asked VHB to estimate those costs so that we could gain a full understanding of what the total cost would be to connect these improvements to the Fremont branch of the Rockingham Rail Trail to have that nice connectivity. So we'll see what VHB comes back with, but yes.
Nate, the easements, would it require land taking? Because there's a lot of private property in that area.
No, I don't believe so, Peter. We'll see what VHB comes back with. VHB's primary concern on the east side is the crossing of Lowell Road.
Right, no, I'm familiar with that area. So yeah, Lowell Road is a very big north-south, a very busy north-south road on north-southwest, northeast road that connects Windham with downtown Gary.
that was their primary concern is how to cross Lowell Road safely. And as we talked about with Londonderry and the Route 28 project, we do think that in all likelihood, a pedestrian hybrid beacon level of crossing infrastructure will be needed. So next steps, I won't go line by line through here, other than to say that we are going through this kind of August to October timeframe here, candidate projects undergoing engineering review and initial evaluation, which is in progress right now. We're still working with VHB. On our next kind of milestone here is November 10th, which is when our short list of regional candidate projects will be due to New Hampshire DOT, kind of making DOT aware of the projects that we're considering in this 10-year plan update cycle, and also submitting to them our engineered scopes and cost estimates as they go through a review process at the state level as well. So we're going to continue to work with VHB over the coming 2 weeks to refine project scope and cost estimates. Like I say, we're asking them to take another look at what safety improvements might be viable in Bedford. We're asking them to take a look at what's needed on the east side of the rail trail in Windham and other comments that we've provided to them. So they'll be working on that over the next 2 weeks. We'll be working with them, and then we have that November 10th kind of interim deadline for a submission of project candidates, what I would call a short list of projects to DOT. We're going to have a meeting of our evaluation subcommittee, and that's comprised of people who represent communities that don't have active 10-year plan projects to help us start to evaluate these. And we're going to meet, I think, on November 1st. That subcommittee is George Sioris of Derry, Mark Soonen of New Boston, and Linda Kuhnhart of Francistown. Thank you all for volunteering to work with us. We're going to do an initial evaluation of the projects according to the criteria, but final regional priorities are not due until March 31st of 2023. So we're going to start to evaluate these projects next week according to the criteria. We've already been doing some homework here at the staff level, and we're going to vet all of that with our evaluation subcommittee. I think the key thing for us here is, at this point, we consider all of the 7 projects to be viable 10-year plan candidates. And so we're going to submit the engineered scopes and cost estimates for all 7 of our projects to New Hampshire DOT. We're not taking anything off the table at this point. We're going to make DOT aware of everything we've done for these 7 projects and give them an initial sense of where our priorities lie from our TAC evaluation subcommittee in advance of the 10th. But our final regional priorities, again, aren't due until March 31st. Bill Watson, go ahead.
Nate, I'm sure you are aware of this comment or question, but we're not interested in seeing all 7 projects from Southern New Hampshire Planning Commission at the anticipated costs that you're showing.
Yeah, and well, we're going to give you what we have, and with an initial sense of what our priorities are, and understanding that you have bandwidth issues as well, and limited ability to review all of those. We can have a discussion about which ones the department will exercise its bandwidth on reviewing.
I don't think that's the way that the department has asked the 9 regional planning commissions. That maybe that's a conversation we should have offline, but for the policy committee's awareness, our request from each of the 9 regional planning commission was that you submit initial priorities that totaled your allocation of about 10.56 million plus 1 or 2 other projects, not 7. The total, I didn't keep track, but that 7 I'm guessing is in the neighborhood of 40 to 50 million. It's a little bit different scale.
Is that a question? Was that a question?
I guess the statement from the department is we're not looking for all 7 projects. My question is, what is the total of that 7 projects as you're seeing the information come from VHB now?
Yeah, and we don't have the answer to that yet, Bill. We're still working through some of the costlier projects and working on what those may look like on a scaled down version. So we're going to be working with VHB over the next 2 weeks to get a handle on that. I'm simply sharing an update right now of where we're at this point on October 25th.
Okay. Any additional questions for Nate in-house here? Any additional questions from the outside world? Nate, I do have a question. The corridor that's going to be parallel to 101, was it bike/pedestrian corridor? When it reaches the Amherst line, what happens to it then? Does it just stop?
It would stop. Yeah. At least that would be the end of this particular project. And it would be.
So would it force traffic onto 101 then?
You're talking about the multi-use path?
Yes.
Yeah, we'd have to figure out how to terminate that properly, or work with our colleagues in Nashville they can determine whether Amherst is interested in continuing it further to the west.
Okay. Yes, go ahead.
I've been down that way. Don't they already have one of those type of walkways going from Emerson to Milford? If you go down that way, that's all been redone. And you got these wide walking paths and stuff. It's all been upgraded and going into town. Did a pretty good job. I don't know if it's gonna make it that anyway. They're going down the old Route 101, I think, Milford.
Yeah, I'm not an expert in what happened. There may have been improvements. I don't yeah, I don't know.
Just
exactly where.
bring those comments to the team.
Right.
Nate, unless there are further questions, Nate, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Actually, I said a quick comments on that Amherst and Milford are looking to connect. They will have a connection there long-term going from the Milford Oval through Amherst and hopefully into Bedford. So their National Regional Planning Commission is already working on that.
Great, thank you for the update. Other business, Sylvia?
Not for the MPO.
Okay, could I have a motion to adjourn the MPO? There's a second. All those in favor, raise your hands. Okay. I'm calling to order the Southern New Hampshire Planning Commission. Is there a motion to accept the minutes of 27? Is there a second? Okay, there is a second. Any corrections or omissions? Sylvia, could you do a roll call and approval of the minutes, please?
Yes, Paula and Auburn. Present. Bedford, Charlie,
Here and the same.
Jill Jean,
Here and yes.
Danielle,
Here and yes.
thank you, Andrea, Al.
Abstain.
Oh, I'm sorry, and we also have Dan Heath. Okay, great, thanks, Dan. Let's see, and we have heard from Al, Chester, Andrew.
Here and abstain.
Thanks. Deb Munson,
Here and yes.
excellent. Derry, Jeff Munson,
Here and yes.
John O'Connor,
Here and yes.
Francistown, Alfred.
Here and yes.
Thanks, Alfred. Linda Kunhar. Here and yes. Jennifer Vadney
Here and abstain.
and Gary.
Here and yes.
Thank you. Goffstown, we have Dave.
Here, yes.
Yes, thank you. Jacob,
Here and yes.
great. Hooksett, Denise,
Here, yes, thank you.
great. And Rob,
Here and yes.
excellent. Londonderry, Suzanne,
Here and abstain.
thank you. Art, Rug,
I am here and yes on the minutes.
thank you. Lynn Wiles,
Here and yes.
thank you. We have Peter in Manchester,
Here and yes.
right?
Here and yes.
And Marcus.
Barbara Griffin is also here.
Oh, yeah, thank you. Barbara Griffin is also here. Barbara Griffin from Goffstown.
Here and yes.
Excellent. There's our group. Thanks, Barbara. I'm gonna add you. Let's see. Where was I? I went to Marcus, New Boston, Mark.
Here and abstain.
Thank you, Mark. And Wyndham, Peter Griffin,
Here and yes.
John Hiltz. Still with us, John?
Oh, sorry, my mic was muted. I am here and I abstain.
Thank you. And Edgar, great. All right, that'll do it.
Okay, we move on to new business. Sylvia, do you want to give an overview of innovative housing solutions in New Hampshire?
I really, really do. You all, and let's see, where is Maggie? There she is. I'm just making you co-host, Maggie. So you can share your screen. So there's Maggie and John Randolph. This is our lucky day, I'll tell you right now, because these two fabulous people, all we hear and hear, so you can see me. Here am I. This is me. Hi. So we hear about the housing situation all the time in New Hampshire. We hear about the challenges. We hear about housing shortages. And so it's depressing, really. And often what you want to hear is about solutions, and you want to hear success stories. This is what we're going to hear today from Maggie and John, who, well, they'll do a better job than I do. So I'm so pleased to see you here today. Thank you for taking the time out, and take it away.
Well, that intro was a lot of pressure. Well, Ed, thank you for having us today. Maggie and I are excited to share what we've been trying to do and kind of seeing how it works across New Hampshire. We own 2 assisted livings in Durham, New Hampshire, and a few years ago, we were just like everybody else, really struggling with staffing issues. And we started to ask our staff what their issues were. And overwhelmingly, we got answered 2 questions: no available housing and childcare. Over and over and over again, we heard no affordable childcare or no childcare at all, and housing. And we started to hear stories. Let me just real quickly, can you hear us okay? Is everyone hearing us okay?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Okay, just wanted to make sure. So we started asking for, what the real life of our staff was. We have about 80 staff, and we were hearing of people driving from, Milton, New Hampshire over to South Berwick, Maine to drop their kids off with their parents, then drive to Durham and work at, 8-10 hour a day, and then do that backwards the other side. And if anybody in that process was sick, that employee called out. As gas prices went up, that got tougher. But when we asked why they were doing it, that they're like, that's the only place we can afford housing. And so many of our staff were traveling upwards of an hour to make, $15, $16, $17, $18 an hour as our floor staff, because they couldn't live in the seacoast or couldn't really live, now it's even getting pushed further. So we went to the town of Durham. We own land in Durham, and we asked for permission to build the building that we're sitting in right now. And it's 7 1-bedroom apartments and our own childcare and some office space for our staff. And what we do is we lease this to our staff for 30% of their pay or 16 hours a week. So any part-time employees, their rent would be equivalent to after taxes of 16 hours. And then our full-time employees are about 30% of their pay. And that allows, they're getting a 1-bedroom for somewhere between $650 to $850 on our 600 feet from work. So they can drop their child off and then walk to work. And I'm going to turn this over to Maggie here in a second. But the problem we had was our 7 apartments filled with a wait list like you couldn't believe. So we then decided to see if we could do it again. And we bought 8 acres in Dover. And our current project is we're building 44 tiny homes in Dover with a guarantee to the city of Dover that we would keep our rent below HUD. And that allowed us to have the density of 44 tiny homes on that parcel of land. And that's the project we're in the middle of right now. And to be honest, we're starting to look to that. Those are all 1-bedroom models. We're looking to do a 2 and a 3-bedroom model. And we're looking for businesses to partner with to kind of continue to grow the model. And so I'll turn it a little bit over to Maggie, because she can talk through the 2 buildings and a little bit of specifics, but that's kind of the business side of our model.
We're having some microphone issues, so I keep turning it just to make sure you can hear me. So if anytime you can't, just, wave your hands and scream or yell or anything like that. But I will share our screen. So like I said, when we kind of took things into our own hands of how to do this, so, John has been on the real estate and, enjoys renovations and has been doing that for forever as well. And I'm an architect by trade. So it's kind of a natural pairing to see how we could tackle this issue. So, when we started out on these projects, we really did, go all in. We bought excavators and, we created a site team, and, we've got a team of frame. And so, and we're pretty hands-on as well. Just because we kept getting, the bids we were getting for housing, shockingly enough, as we all deal with this day to day, the prices have all, gone through the roof, and they have been since even before the pandemic started. So, like I said, we're trying to find creative ways to solve the problem. And I'm going to share my screen now and show you the project that we've completed and what we're in the middle of right now. So this is the building that we are sitting in right now. This is Harmony Place. And I don't know if you can see it behind, but this is actually, so it's on the campus of our assisted living, Harmony Homes by the Bay here in Durham. And we'll move on to the floor plan in a second. But as John said, this is, it's 1-bedroom apartments. The second floor is all apartments at the end. And then in the center, we actually have an apartment in one section, and then the childcare in the middle. And then on the 3rd floor, we dormered it and created office space. Yep.
The director of the childcare actually lives in the building, so it's nice for her also.
Yep. And that's actually a really cool story, because this was the director of the child.
Maggie, we couldn't hear that comment.
Oh, go for it.
Sorry, our director of the childcare literally lives next door. So she's the apartment next to the childcare. She has about a 15-step walk to work, which is awesome for her.
And what I was starting to say about that as well is that she actually owns her own business. So we have the space for the childcare, but she's 24 years old, and she has taken on the franchise of a childcare and runs it right next to her apartment. So it's a pretty cool story about a young woman starting her own business as well. And then, like I said, and providing childcare for our employees. So this is continuation of, you see the floor plan of how the building is laid out. Like I said, it's it's a pretty, rectangular building here. We have every setback known to man here. You can see we're right on the Oyster River. Those are our terrible views. So, our staff really suffers from, blindness and, sun poisoning, workman's comp stuff. But, we really, like I said, what we could have done here was a lot different, but we really trying to support our employees and give them a really quality place to work. We believe a lot in and live. We believe a lot in dignity. So we have dignity for the seniors that we take care of, but we also want dignity for our staff. And these are places that we never want to build something that we ourselves wouldn't live in. So you can see the floor plan layout, kind of a drone shot of the campus at this point. Yep. Oh, thank you. Square footage. These units are just under 500 square feet apiece. They have a kind of a combination living kitchen, a 1-bedroom apartment, 1 bedroom there, and then a bathroom that includes a stackable washer dryer. I'll keep going on. And then these are shots from inside of the units. So you can start to see, that, we tried to, have a little fun, but also, just keep quality in the amenities that we were including.
one of the things that Maggie and I are really focused on is, if you look at the demographics of New Hampshire, we have plenty of customers heading our way for assisted living, memory care. But where's the staff going to come from in the coming decades? If you look at that population of 18 to 25-year-olds in New Hampshire and even younger, anyone who owns a business that requires that workforce and that staff knows that there's a pretty big void out there. And so we've been focusing our design of our model on what an 18 to 25-year would look for. And these are extremely popular with the 18 to 25-year-olds. However, we have people of all ages interested in them. But it was really trying to think like an 18 to 25-year-old so we can retain 18 to 25-year-olds, but also attract them to the state.
And the attraction to the state and keeping, that age group here is really, really important to us. But like you said, this is not meant to be just for one age group, because we found that what we do has an immense appeal to those that are downsizing, that may be empty nesters or just don't need all the extra space. So Durham required us to keep all of these units only for employees of Harmony Homes. But with our Dover project, we are opening up the tiny homes to anyone. So now let's jump into that project.
May I ask a question first?
Of course. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, go for it.
I'm just curious about the 1-bedroom aspect of the Harmony Homes. So these are intended for people who will work at your place and have children, right? So where do the children fit in? Where's their bedroom?
Well, we have a fair number of single parents. One thing that we've been working through is the single parent issue that's out there, meaning how do you make a living on $18 an hour, afford childcare, and afford apartment? So we've allowed young couples as well as single parents to be in these, and it's worked out fairly well. We haven't had too much conflict with it yet. We are, like I said, mentioning earlier, designing a 2- and 3-bedroom model is what we would like to do after the project that Maggie's talking about right now, is to do a 2- and 3-bedroom model. And she's going to talk about it a little bit more. The cottages on this project that she's working on have a loft as well as a bedroom, and she'll be able to talk through the specifics of that.
But you are right. The units at Harmony Place are only 1 bedroom. So, we have to be creative with how for children, because they don't necessarily get a separate space. But it has worked that we have single parents. We have a couple that has a brand new baby right now in the units, and they're hoping to move into one of the cottages when those become available. But we were crammed for space, which is one of the reasons why we are expanding into Dover. But not everyone who the childcare is available to any of our employees, not just those that live in the building. So it really has, and the childcare is full, which is very exciting and not surprising given the status of the state of the union here. But it is something that we do work through. So on to, oh, sorry.
No, I just said thank you.
Okay, great. I just want to make sure I answered the question. So on to Dover. Dover is, like as John said, we are creating a development with 44 tiny homes, and we're calling them cottages because tiny homes, we all watch HGTV and we get this idea that these are on trailers that you pull around, and what we are building here are on slabs. So we just kind of want to differentiate there. But these have a square footage of 384 square feet footprint, which means they are 16 by 24. And like John says, they have a loft. And we'll kind of get into the floor plan in a second. But what I want to share here is that a few things about this. We hear a lot about the terms about missing middle and how can, we, bridge this idea between multifamily and single family houses, of which we have so many neighborhoods in New Hampshire. So we are actually in a single family zone. We are surrounded on all sides, pretty much by, by single family homes, that, 3-4 bedrooms. So we worked hard to fit into the context of that neighborhood. So we developed this in a pocket neighborhood style. So, anybody can look this up. There's a great Forbes article and there's books published about pocket neighborhoods. And this is actually an incredibly old typology that we're trying to resurrect in New Hampshire. But basically, it just means that these are all, freestanding units. They don't have to be, but in here they are, that face a common green. So your backs are turned toward, toward the road here, you park, and then you walk into your unit. They all have porches, and they're actually found to be a lot, the community is very high, the sense of community and the safety factor, just because who's in your cluster and you can, you see everybody, and, it's a great place to be able to let kids out and play, because again, who's around you and who's supposed to be there, used to being there. So that's something we're really, looking for, because it's not, like I said, when we talk to those that we were trying to, house our employees, what are you looking for? And we get so many responses about, I don't need so much space, but I'd like to be able to walk places. We wanted walkability, access to transit, and just, we have this concept before of being able to kind of retreat into your house. We'd like to bring back the model where, you have your own private space, but then you also have public space that we're trying to share. Yeah, definitely the sense of community. So I'll move on to the next. Here's some renderings of what these will look like. We did work to try and, even down to the color palettes of trying to fit in with the neighborhood. Kind of going with, again, little cottage style. And again, you can see the porches and how these are kind of oriented. And then the evolution of the floor plan. These are 17 feet tall at the peak, which means that on the side of the eaves, they're 12 feet tall. So when you walk into them, it sounds, you think 384 square foot footprint, what is that going to feel like? And these are actually much grander than you would think. They actually, because of the height and the windows that we're putting in, they really do have a feeling of spaciousness. And the loft upstairs actually becomes a really great bedroom. So that's something that we're capitalizing on. But again, these will have, you could have one bedroom. You could have a kid's bedroom downstairs or a smaller bed if that's your feeling, and use the upstairs for storage. We're looking at it, a bathroom. We're having a washer dryer in the units or hookups for it. And again, a combination kitchen living space. And then this is under construction. This was taken just a few days ago. So we're actually we've got another unit up since this was taken. And the units that you are seeing as just framing are now sheathed. And we're getting ready for 2 pours this week. So we're moving through them.
Are you on, in Dover, or even Durham, are you on city water and sewage?
On both of these, we are. Well, and there's several things that we look for. It doesn't have to be. You can do septic and private water, but public transportation is a nice thing to have for these. One thing that we're surprised by is how many people don't own a car right now. And so that's a little bit of a challenge. One of the things that we're working with other companies is companies can sponsor units. And so we'll allow them to put, say, a company vehicle there so people can come to work together. We're trying to create a strong sense of community, walkability, all the factors that Maggie mentioned earlier. Do you guys have some questions or comments or thoughts?
Additional questions?
Yes.
Yes, please, yeah, I'll go ahead.
Just a question as to how the fire, police and other emergency vehicles access those places.
Well, I thought I was going to stop sharing my screen, but I was just kidding. We
The
actually-
question was, how do police and fire access the facilities?
Yep. So we worked hard with the fire department. We went through all of the technical review committees and such to make sure that this would meet everything. So the fire department obviously comes in. This parking lot also serves as fire department turnaround, and we'll have a hydrant here. Additionally, every unit outside of 50 feet away from the access will be sprinklered.
Additional questions?
Yes, John O'Connor Dairy. I like your format. My question is, not knowing about the zoning in the town of Dover, are there any impact fees, especially towards whether it be fire, police, or school systems?
Yeah, great question. Dover worked with us a lot, and they were very open. We did, just so you know, one thing we did when we built this was we went driveway by driveway, met with every family that surrounded us, let them get to know us, as well as fire department, police department, and everything. But Dover has a pretty, you know, I wouldn't say aggressive, but impact fees are an issue. And at first, they looked at these as single family homes, and the impact fees for single family homes would have crushed the project. And so they made an adjustment that these are more like townhouses or one bedroom apartments. So we worked with them to kind of create a new category, but there's impact fees for schools, fire, police, and water and sewer on this project.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
I'd also like, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead. And
Ray
then,
Clement from Manchester. Do they have some type of condo fees for upper buildings?
Do we have any?
The outside appearance is kept up. Do they have any types of regulations they gotta follow?
So one of the deals that we made with Dover was that we wouldn't sell individual units. So we will continue to own all the land and 44 units because the city of Dover wanted one person to call if there was a problem. So one of the challenges of this, I won't, you know, tell you there's no challenge to this, but when someone's your tenant as well as your employee, there's a challenge to that. Because if they're a great tenant, they might not be a great employee. If they're a great employee, they might not be a great tenant. But we started our own property management division, as well as what Maggie was mentioning. We started our own construction company. And so we manage them and control them. The reason we decided, people ask us all the time, why didn't you sell them? Was because they kind of spin out of control on affordability fairly quickly. Even if you can write things into deeds and do those sort of things, but they really, down in Massachusetts, units this size are selling for what, $900,000. So we were worried about them spinning out of control. The other part about it is that we want to create future homeowners in this environment, so they look at it not just as rent, but like that this is their home, this is their community, and grow homeowners out of this opportunity.
you're fortunate in that area too, because both communities are on the Amtrak Down Easter rail corridor that connects to Boston and also to north to Maine.
Yeah.
I have a question real quick. I'm just wondering, I saw the construction photo. So those are your own crews, and do you also have not just, is it the site work, or is it your own carpenters and your own plumbers and electricians? How far have you gone in that?
Great question. So the building that we first showed you, Harmony Place, we really had no intention of building that ourselves, but we went out to bid and we were getting prices about $1.6 million, and it took it out of affordability. We couldn't do what we did. So we decided to buy an excavator and hire some builders, and we built it for $1,040,000. So we came in about $560,000 under our lowest bid. So when we decided to do Dover, we've hired a total of 4 site guys now. So we're up to a 4-person site team and a 6-person building team. So the only thing we subcontract out is our heating and our plumbing. And well, sprinkler also, sorry, I consider that part of the plumbing, but so we currently subcontract our sprinkler systems, our plumbing, and our electrical out. Everything else is employees.
Wow.
It cuts the price by about 28%. That's what we're calculating on a project, that we can cut the price about 28%.
I have a question on financing. Do you have any problem getting financing? We have developments in Bedford now that can't, workforce housing, senior housing, can't get financing because they can't make the numbers work. Do you have any problems that way?
Well, making the numbers work is really, really challenging because one of our goals is 100% affordability, not 20% affordability or 40% affordability, but we committed all 44 units to affordability. And when you do that, the math quickly turns from being in your favor to not being in your favor. But so we had to invest a fairly significant amount of money into making the project work, but we have a very long-term view of that. So we currently work with Newburyport Bank, who was very supportive of the project. We do work with with Stratford Economic Development Corporation. They're also in support of the project. So both of them have been supportive of the projects. And as we're looking at buying another 25 acres to do 100 2 and 3 bedrooms is what we're targeting next. So far, we haven't had anybody that isn't supportive of it, because long-term view is that's the only way we're going to be able to bring staff or keep staff in New Hampshire. And that's the way I look at it as a business owner. And we're starting to discuss this with other small and medium-sized businesses. If we build these, would other companies be interested in putting an investment in the down payment with a, say, 2 to 3% return with a guaranteed number of units to a small company? So they don't have to manage it, they don't have to build it and everything else and stuff like that, but have a short-term investment into it. And that guarantees them a number of units that they can pass on to their staff with no profit, but at cost.
Peter, I think you had a question.
Yeah, actually not a question so much as just a compliment, really. I love that layout of the Dover project with the back of the properties to the street and that community in the front of the buildings. That's brilliant in my mind. Kudos to you for that.
I'd love to take credit for it, but it's really old. They've got, bungalow courts from, 1918 in other areas of the country. I mean, Frederick Law Olmsted was a part of a project outside New York City where they've done these. I mean, I think, so I'd love to take credit, but I really can't. And they're very accepted and popular, or becoming more popular out West. So I'm loving that it's a proven model. And what I think is really exciting about this particular project is tiny homes exist, or cottages, and pocket neighborhoods exist. And now we're bringing those two together with the affordability aspect. And so that's what I think makes this unique.
I think that getting back to your comment, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Getting back to your comment, I know that some of the older cities, like particularly in the south end of Boston, which is this grand 19th century Victorian neighborhood, you have these beautiful bullfront houses on a public square, and they back up to what are alleys, service alleys. So it is reclaiming that concept again. You had a comment, and then we had another question in here.
Yeah, I just, I can say this because I'm over 50 years old and I can't quite see the entire audience. So I'll give the disclaimer that I'm over 50 years old. So you kind of can start from there. It's tough when we're over 50 to think like 20 or 25 today. It's a different mentality on what they're looking for in housing, what they're looking for in jobs. They're looking for a sense of community. And when you turn these houses towards each other and you think about kids safely playing in the front yard, planting flowers, decorating for Halloween, decorating for Christmas, they want to belong to something. The 18 to 25-year-olds want to believe that they're part of something. Not that everybody over 50 didn't, but they want affordability. They've got a lot of student debt. They've got a lot of other challenges and everything else and stuff like that. So it's changing a little bit of how you think and everything else. It's not exactly a lot. We get a lot of comments of, well, 384 square feet, I got a bathroom bigger than 384 square feet, which Maggie and I go, wow, you've got a really big bathroom. But if you're trying to move an 18-year-old out of high school, out of their parents' house, and they get their own 384 square feet, and maybe they're going to one of our state community colleges, becoming an LPN, starting to work in one of our hospitals, now you're keeping young professionals in our state. If you got an electrician that's a journeyman that wants to live somewhere and be proud of where they're living, and everything else, that's the concept we're going to need if we're going to keep 18 to 25-year-olds as well as attract them. And to our surprise, a lot of 55 and over love these because they're less maintenance, because there's less cleaning, because they're energy efficient. and everything else. And so we're really kind of finding interest in them where we didn't see fit or see originally. So I'm sorry, there was another question. We don't want to
Go
miss
right
the
ahead.
question.
First of all, like others, I want to compliment you on this idea. I agree with Sylvia. It's great to see a success. As others have said, this goes back to a much older kind of structure. Clapham Common in London, right in the 1700s, was kind of built with this in mind, and it's consistent with a lot of research in urban studies and human geography over the past 20, 25 years. My question is, how does this move beyond you? Right, you've got a great model, you've got a couple of great sites here, and with all due respect, the problem is bigger than your ability to solve it, right? So how does this move beyond where you have it now?
Awesome question. Awesome question. Because we'll be honest with you, like we're baffled or blown away by how many organizations reach out to us. Veterans organizations, all kinds of organizations are struggling with housing issues and everything. And so there's a couple things that I want to kind of point out. A lot of people are waiting to see how Dover comes out. They've walked through our building in Durham. And by the way, we welcome any of you that are interested to come visit us, come see the construction, come see what we do. We love showing people the project, but we hear consistently that there's a lot of towns and cities around the state that have heard of our project and want to drive through it once it's done, because when we went to do this to the planning board, we got those people need services. Those people need, are going to have cars up on their jacks. That's not what this is about. This is about giving people an affordable place to start a professional career. So we believe the number one thing that Dover is going to do for us is prove that the model works. That's our first goal, is to show that it can happen and it can be done. And we've got the neighbors that originally came out against our project asked us if they could get one for their mom the other day. They asked me, another one asked if they could get one for their son the other day. So we have to, first of all, prove that the model works and that young professionals are going to take care of the places and are going to be respectful neighbors and are eventually going to become home buyers in our area. The second thing that I wanted to bring up is, in order for us to grow the model, because to date we've accepted 0 outside funding. We have no federal funds, state funds, or anything else. We've done it through private funding and bank loans. We would like to partner with other companies and grow the model so that we're building several hundred of these and everything. And to be honest with you, we have someone that came over from Keene this week and just spent a day looking at what we're doing. We're getting phone calls across the state, across the region, asking, can we see your design? We'll share information. We know that we can't build enough of these to solve the problem. Even if we build 500 of these in the next 5 years, we haven't solved 1/10 of the problem. So we're willing to show that the model works. We're willing to partner with businesses that they come in and help fund it. We oversee it. We help them work through the models, but you need businesses also to accept that if they're going to grow and sustain in New Hampshire, that they're going to have to invest in different ways. We look at it like, I can give a nurse a $10,000 signing bonus, or I can give her an affordable place to live. And that $10,000 signing bonus works for a year or works for a couple of months, and then I lose her. So you have to get businesses that are willing to look at this as a long-term investment, that are willing to buy land, and maybe they don't build it themselves like we're doing and everything else, but they are willing to. And then also in developers that are understanding that there's a long-term hold in this. It's not a 9% return next year. This is a 20-year view on things. And you have to be willing to accept that we're not going to get a return on this Dover project for a while, not a financial return. We'll get an investment in human, staffing and everything else, but we won't get the financial return on it for years.
Well, I live in Windham and have just, it's been a number of decades since I've seen 50, but I've just downsized from a house into a scale of what you're talking about. And it's wonderful because I don't like to clean, and it's not a lot to clean. I mean, and also too, I think you've touched on 2 other things, is we demand immediate gratification now, and you talk long-term. That's one stigma. Secondly, what you're proposing, how do you break the stigma of, I'm sorry, some of the inner city slums and housing projects, you know, that when in some cases they started out very positively, but you are keeping that positivity. But anyway, any other questions? And then, yes, go right
I
ahead.
have a question online as well.
Okay,
What about pets? A lot of the millennials love, you know, their dogs and the cats. I wouldn't want to move there if I could have a pet.
We do allow pets. We have 2 golden retrievers on our feet right now. So our goldens go with us everywhere. Actually, you know, to be honest with you, a majority of our leadership bring their pets to work every day in our building. So our assisted living directors and assistant directors all bring their dogs or animals to work on a regular basis. So we're a very big supporter on it. Obviously, there's certain breeds that we have to be careful of, those sort of things and everything, but we're a very big supporter on pets. And I think one of the comments earlier about, you know, these need to be places that they're proud of. If you move into a place that you're not proud of, then you're naturally not going to take care of it and everything. And we have to work and mentor young men and women to understand what home ownership means. Home ownership means if your toilet doesn't work, it's broken because the toilet doesn't work, it's my fault. If it's because you flush things down there that you weren't supposed to flush down there, it's your fault. It's your toilet then. And it takes a little bit of work to get them to accept that and get them to understand that if they want the yard to look beautiful, they might have to go out and plant some flowers. But there is some mentorship to that. There's some investment in that. It takes time and everything, but we built a strong leadership team around that mentorship program. And the other things that we've done that we're proud of is, you know, if you know the Portsmouth structure, we partner with Crossroads, we partner with Haven, we partner with all the other projects that are trying to get people jobs and housing and childcare and get them, you know, 2 feet on a ladder, that their job is to climb that ladder, but they now have 2 feet and 2 hands on that ladder. And so they have the ability to climb back in and provide their loved ones a nice home, start a family, start a profession, and not be living somewhere they're not proud of. And our job now is to keep these 44 homes something that they'll be proud to be part of.
we have one more question, and then I'm sorry, I have to bring this to a close because we're running out of time. But this is amazing. We could probably go on for another hour on just this discussion. The question online, please.
So you may have already addressed this, but how is this tied to employment? You were saying that this is for your employees. So can you explain a little how that works?
Sure. The Harmony Place, the first building we showed you, Durham required that they would be employees to live in this building. And it's a student issue on that particular building. The 44 homes in Dover will be open to the public. And we guaranteed that all 44 would stay below HUD. So Dover's HUD is about $1,000. And so regardless of who they work for, those will be $1,000. And employers can choose to subsidize that or not. So I can decide that one of my employees only makes $16 an hour and 30% is, say, $940. I can change their rent to $940. And any sponsoring employer could do that also, and everything else. So, but these 44 will be open to the public, no age restrictions, no background restrictions, and everything else. But they're really just meant to bring and maintain, you know, the young workforce population that the state needs.
Okay, this has been amazing. Thank you so much. And I'm sure we have your contact information here, and anyone that wants it will be able to reach out to you. Sylvia, do you have anything else?
Oh, just thank you so much for your time. I so appreciate it. And you've definitely been hearing from our team. So thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We welcome you out for a field trip anytime.
Okay, Sylvia, do you want to go over membership dues? And this will require an adoption.
It will. Okay, let's see, membership dues, here we go. This is, hopefully will be an easy one. So basically, we recommended to maintain the dues rate. I believe this is third or third year running, Nate?
Yes.
We've only updated the 2021 population numbers from New Hampshire Department of Business and Economic Affairs. So I'm not sure anything else. So dues rate to stay the same, updating population numbers.
Questions?
Recommended by the executive committee.
And yes, thank you. And we did get a recommendation from the executive committee.
Questions in-house?
Mr. Chairman, I
Well, wait a minute, before you do it. Any questions from those calling in? Okay, I'll take it away.
Yeah, I move that we accept the executive committee's recommendation to adopt the fiscal year 24 membership dues as presented.
Second.
All those in favor, please raise your hands.
Aye.
Online, okay. Any
Getting some
opposed?
thumbs up online. Any opposed?
Any abstentions? It's unanimous.
Thanks, everybody. Appreciate it so much.
Okay, we will, any other business, Sylvia?
Just a teaser, we have recently, we're under negotiations, but next meeting you'll meet our newest member of the team,
Wonderful.
and that's the teaser.
Okay.
I move that we adjourn.
No, not yet, not yet, Al. Yay. Oh, my God. This is like something almost that Mark Sunan would do to me. Let's move this on. Any public comment period? Any commissioner insights? Now, Al, take it away.
I move we adjourn.
Hey, I'll second that.
All those in favor?
Hey.
Okay.
See you next time. Happy Halloween.
I lived in a 500 square foot house for 10 years.